The 2024 VMAs may not have been entertaining, but it's safe to say they carried a lot of controversy. From Tyla's ever-growing hate train being an uppity African and all, which, by the way, she didn't ask Halle to carry that award. There's actual proof of that. And second, I didn't see any of you were complaining when Cardi B asked the front row at the 2018 VMAs to carry her award, to which then 14-year-old Millie Bobby Brown carried it for her. Just putting it out there. Apart from that separate issue, Lisa's performance at the award show was at the center of controversy in the K-pop world, with accusations of lip-syncing and complaining about her stage presence not being up to par with that particular stage. Apparently, her performance was so bad that according to the New York Post, it did not even deserve to be criticized with professional language. They instead opted to attack Lisa as an artist herself, calling her a K-flop whom we all, according to the writer, have to wonder how she got invited in the first place. It's not the criticism of Lisa in general that bothers me. Billboard's critique of the performance, at least in my opinion, was fair and definitely worded better. But the reaction to the New York Post opened a side of K-pop that I really wasn't aware of. The side that doesn't want Lisa to succeed outside of the K-pop bubble. Over the years, as Blackpink has matured in their image and forged their own paths as individuals, it's fair to say that, as far as conquering the global market goes, not too many people wanted that for Lisa. And looking back, especially at their predictions in terms of Blackpink's solo ventures, it becomes a little obvious. Oftentimes, based on an idol's dominant talent, fans tend to predict what they will do after group disbandment. And with Blackpink, most people wanted Jisoo to be a K-drama actress, for Jennie to be a solo superstar in the K-pop industry and a fashion powerhouse internationally. Rosé, the most musically inclined member, had fans hoping that she would maybe be an internationally recognized artist. But Lisa? Well, Lisa is a dancer. And in K-pop, when you are a dominant dancer who especially raps and doesn't particularly sing, according to K-pop, your options are quite limited. And more importantly, they ought to stay that way. As a dancer in K-pop, after success in your group, you can either become a dance teacher or a mentor of some sort in the K-pop industry, or even better, open up a prestigious dance academy or something, which there's nothing wrong with those, but it's almost like under no circumstances should you set your sights higher. Like, I don't know, learn to actually sing, release good English music, and then become the first K-pop solo artist to perform on a well-recognized award show. My audience's favorite series from me last year is one I titled The Blackpink Olympics, where I go into the mess that is Blackpink's fandom, mainly the birth of their toxic solo stans. And one thing these stans tend to fight about often is the case of who deserves what. When one member of the group achieves something, anything really, you best believe that the solo stans of the other members will not only criticize that accomplishment, but they will try to downplay it. They actually go out of their way to harass that member to let them know how undeserving they are of that milestone. Let's call it what it is: jealousy. Now, I don't want anyone misinterpreting. I'm not saying that the criticism of Lisa's VMA performance was rooted in jealousy. I have come across criticism that makes sense as to why that performance in particular was not enjoyable. With the exception of the lip-syncing accusations, of course, because Lisa was not lip-syncing, she just had a loud backtrack and the proof is in the fan cams. But back to the stage presence aspect of it. The lack of enjoyment is not because Lisa is a bad performer, or that she cannot live up to what is now being referred to as the Western standards of performance skill. And the reason is definitely not that we only see her as a good performer because the rest of Blackpink is quote-unquote mediocre on stage. It is because the stage and song transitions were simply not well organized, and the performance oomph, as Billboard put it, was lacking. More importantly, the set design and outfits should have focused on a more retro theme that spotlights New Woman as a song. Excluding Rosalia's parts in the New Woman performance was a mistake as far as I'm concerned. Her parts would have made the transition to Rockstar smoother and less choppy. Imagine deep purple lighting, sensual dance moves incorporating the chairs into the choreography with Rosalia's vocals in the background, and then using Rockstar's outro instrumental as a transition into the song. That is the oomph that was missing from her performance. The creativity around the set design and the song transitions, not her stage presence. And I'm sure one might argue that if the set design affected how good her performance was, then that would mean that she's not that great of a performer to begin with. In some cases, I would agree, except one. In Lisa's case, we have seen her perform songs with no set and still do an amazing job. And two, when things such as set design and choreography, whose job are to aid the performance, are done wrong, it's a little hard to ignore. These things play a crucial part in award show performances, And when they do not complement the music playing, they will definitely affect the overall performance. It is also worth mentioning that K-pop fans had some expectation for Lisa's performances, as they have seen her set the bar high with her previous solo performances, mainly at Coachella. And naturally, a lot more fans expected her to dance because that is what she's well known for in our world. And I believe a lot more people were disappointed by the lack of choreography on her part than they are willing to admit. But K-pop expectations were different from those who had never seen Lisa perform prior to the stage. And because they did not really know what to expect, they weren't too frustrated with the performance like we were. Too many people sometimes take Twitter opinions to be the dominating opinion of the general public, but that is not always the case, because plenty of people outside of the social media space expressed that they enjoyed her performance and she actually gained fans from it. The point I'm trying to make here is that there is a massive exaggeration when it comes to discussing how bad the performance was, especially amongst ARMY and WAN spaces because of their personal vendettas against Blackpink. We all know as K-pop fans that these three fandoms will never get along, at least on Twitter, and taking their reactions as the general public's reaction would be a mistake. More than that, using this one performance to discredit what a great performer Lisa is in general is rash and a little irrational. For 10 years, we've praised Lisa's stage presence consistently and applauded her for the way she mentored trainees in Youth With You as a knowledgeable idol who understands what makes performances look good. Erasing all that over one event doesn't make sense, and I suggest people think a little before making comments of that nature. While I believe that anyone pointing out that the stage did not do justice to Lisa's reputation as a performer should not be labeled a hater for it, I also think that it is important to note that Lisa has upcoming events on bigger platforms in her near future. That means she has the chance to redeem herself and do better. Based on her career, so far, we know that she can do better. Speaking of big platforms, I'd like to redirect the conversation to what sparked this video idea in the first place. My main issues with the discourse around this performance are with those explicitly showing that they believe she does not deserve a world stage, and that her ambition in pursuit of bigger platforms as a global superstar outside of K-pop are premature. From predictions fans made on where her solo career would go and the seemingly bleak confirmation by her largely hated solo debut, it looked as if Lisa was never meant to go further than just being a group member. I cannot be too harsh on these predictions though, as fans were simply working with what they had at that time, and considering how popular Blackpink was on a global scale, it is only fair that most would assume that anyone in Lisa's position would be satisfied. As far as solo and Western stardom outside of Blackpink was concerned, only Jennie and Rosé were awarded those expectations of success due to their potential, public personas, and necessities to Blackpink as a unit. When Jennie was set to star in an American TV show produced by one of the biggest names in Hollywood, alongside one of the most musically acclaimed artists in the world, fans weren't too surprised. Many had predicted that Jennie's future outside of Blackpink would be a blooming solo career musically in K-pop and an equally successful fashion image in the West globally. In their eyes, if anyone was going to break into the Western entertainment sphere, fashion or otherwise, it was going to be the third generation it girl of South Korea. Rosé was awarded the title of most musically inclined, and as an Australian, people expected her to use her English speaking skills in her music and her connections due to being a Blackpink member to explore music in the Western demographic and grow a bigger audience there. Jisoo would be the one to take over the K-drama world and continue to be a strong muse for elegant fashion houses such as Dior. K-pop stans had big dreams for the members of Blackpink and what they could achieve after their group had moved on. But almost no faith was placed in Lisa. Despite her incredible popularity in the West, holding a huge social media presence as the most followed K-pop idol on Instagram, having a strong support system in China and Thailand, and breaking records with the B-side to her debut Money in the West, she was never awarded that expectation. She instead was placed in a box due to her vocal limitation. Looking back at her contribution talent-wise in Blackpink, fans not only underestimated Lisa's ability to musically succeed as a soloist in K-pop, we're not even talking about the West at this point, they simply did not believe in her. During her debut year, Lisa was labeled as the member without a musical identity, unlike the rest, and more notably, possessing a persona that would do more harm than good to her solo career. Her music was scrutinized as shallow and self-centered, even though A, most of Blackpink's music already was, so expecting anything more was odd, and B, the persona she possessed was a YG image that had been shown through other artists and was loved before her. I don't know why this was a problem. People expressed that they expected her to showcase her culture more, despite constantly advocating for fans to stop telling people of color how to express their cultures, but we're not discussing hypocrisy right now. And there were too many opinions on how she had little to nothing to offer to the community as a soloist, and the little that she did had no longevity, and would inevitably fizzle out after one comeback. Many compared her musical persona to that of CL's. It's no wonder they did not expect her to keep a solo career. Most of you couldn't name a single CL song outside of Hello Bitches and Spicy, and that's telling. Overall, they argued that she is the type of idol with enough star power to bring out the best in a group with her dance skills and her stage presence, but due to her limitations vocally, as a soloist, she was never going to make it long term. And I'm ashamed to say this, but I was one of those people who believed that. The faith in her was further reduced as she started to express a more sensual side to herself. It goes without saying that insecure people simply cannot handle confidence, and Lisa had already been criticized for being quote-unquote self-absorbed in her dance skills every time the Blackpink members complimented her, and every time she posted pictures of herself instead of the group after having done events with them. Her choice in alleged relationship partner had people calling her money-hungry because of his family status, adding to the quote-unquote shallow image they previously complained about in her debut songs. It didn't help that many misunderstood what her Crazy Horse performance was about and the history behind its artistry, leading to misinformation claiming her to be performing at a strip club. This, along with her mother's support of the event, led to misrepresentation of women in Thai culture being about using sex to get what they want. And soon, any hard work she had poured into her career since her childhood was washed away. From that moment on, any time she achieved something, it was credited to her partner's family or her sexuality, leading her public brand to become that of a money and fame-hungry woman using her sexuality to insert herself in high places. Some of the disapproval was coming from fans who had infantilized her for so long and didn't want to watch her grow up, while others came from the fear that she was destroying what they called the K-pop image. Fans didn't mind Lisa representing K-pop when she was in a shell that often brings idols respect in South Korea, a shell of a more humble, classy, and feminine public image, that is. But as soon as she broke out of that shell, they started issuing an ultimatum. Act like a K-pop idol and represent the community, or do not attach yourself to that label anymore. The anger wasn't just about what she was doing. It was the fact that she was so confident while she was at it, caring very little about K-pop fans' criticism. The confidence in this image triggered those who had hoped her solo activities would showcase a cute, sweeter personality that revolved around showcasing her culture outside of the YG image she had carried for so long, and their expectations had been crushed. It's sort of the direct opposite of what Black Americans expect out of Tyla right now, but that's a conversation for another day. After her branding change, many fans who wanted to confine her to her culture and nationality were eager to toss her out of the K-pop sphere altogether, almost like they were punishing her for her ambitions. Take the reaction to her winning a VMA award for the Best K-pop category. Instead of criticizing the VMA's lack of effort in specifying awards for K-pop artists and taking their contribution to the music industry seriously, fans criticized Lisa for receiving the award as a Thai woman. It's one thing to complain that the song that she won for was entirely in English. It is another to resent her win because of her nationality. The same criticism happened 2 years ago when she won in the same category for an actual Korean song. Gatekeeping K-pop to nationality strikes as odd because not all K-pop idols are Korean. And to those disregarding years of contribution to the industry, I have to ask, where do foreign idols in this conversation stand? What happens to the demand on diversity in the K-pop market and the outcry for inclusion for most Southeast Asian nations? When it comes to Lisa receiving these VMA awards, very few were actually discussing about the future of K-pop in Western and international award shows, which goes to show that the criticism of Lisa receiving the award had less to do with concern for K-pop representation and more about not wanting Lisa to be the idol that receives this ridiculously ambiguous award. Which, side note, we have to acknowledge that we don't really know what qualifies for the best K-pop category. There is yet to be a distinction as to whether this is for idols who are specifically making Korean music, or idols who are specifically Korean, or anyone who is considered a K-pop artist, or all three. Scrambling to exclude Lisa from an award that almost doesn't have a definition is embarrassing for one, and for another, a sign that representation is a non-issue for most of Lisa's critics. The issue is Lisa herself, the idol that they had zero faith in being the face of K-pop soloists, and worse, the fact that the Western entertainment industry has been welcoming of her. For a long time, they were so wrapped up in trying to mold her into an idol they saw fit for their own needs that they did not realize that Lisa venturing into the Western market is the wisest move she can make for her career. That is, if she wants to continue making an impact in the entertainment industry. Truthfully speaking, Lisa being a soloist in South Korea is a genuine waste of time. The country is crazy patriotic and focused on supporting their own. Foreign idols having overwhelming support for their solo careers is rare if existent at all, and Lisa is not going to magically succeed just because she was a Blackpink member. There's a reason why Jennie in her recent interview said that she had to apologize to Korean fans when they criticized her for vaping indoors. She knows that that market is still relevant to her career. And while Lisa has fans in that nation, Most of them are just casual supporters because she is a quarter of one of their country's biggest prides, Blackpink. And this is telling because when Money was loved in South Korea, a lot of K-nets opened up about how they were listening to her song on illegal sites because they did not want her to be successful on the charts, at least more successful than the other Blackpink members. A fan base loyal enough to give her a strong footing as a soloist will be a lot harder to build, just ask Suri. As a foreign idol, and a Taiwan much less, her best chances of success with the platform she's built is a spot in the West. Her fan base in the West is stronger, more loyal, and her reputation, thanks to Blackpink, is a solid one. Pouring into that industry is a lot more beneficial for her career than being a K-pop soloist. And when it comes to K-pop representation, South Koreans will either prefer one of the other three members in the group or BTS to be the standard of representation before Lisa. Standing as a representation for a general demographic that doesn't even consider her good enough for them is unwise. Creating music that caters more to the Western market while representing her nation with a brand outside of the K-pop image is her best bet at success. And anyone who wants her to triumph in her solo career should see that. The decision to make English music and star in Western TV shows, especially with the reception to Money, is smart. It is not greedy or overly ambitious. Her team is showing intelligence by putting her needs first, unlike YG, and her pursuit of a solo career in the West is not undeserved. She, along with Blackpink, put in a lot of work over the years to be recognized and be respected in that market. And using the social status that they built is taking advantage of exactly what she deserves. The shock from the K-pop universe after her release of New Women, after harshly criticizing Rockstar, shows that people never expected better from her. Which is odd because now when she does do better, she is criticized for quote-unquote wanting too much and being too greedy for Western success. Lisa is not obligated to live by expectations that do not serve her career in a positive way, and the fact that K-pop fans feel entitled to decide the direction that she is supposed to go in or the size of what her musical goals should be says a lot more about them than it does about her. A lot of Lisa's critics, especially ARMY and ones, hate that they cannot humble and confine her into a box that doesn't threaten their fave's successes, and believe, unlike them, she is not worthy of a bigger platform. Within the Blackpink fandom itself, they hate that she's the member emerging as the dark horse and becoming exactly what they hoped Rosé or Jennie would be. They fail to realize over the years that unlike those two, Lisa's superpower is not in her skills, but her ability to evolve, adapt, and rebrand, which is what is mostly rewarded in the entertainment industry. Despite Lisa's track record of shocking fans over the years, for example, learning to sing and gracing Blackpink's full album with her vocals, something she isn't exactly praised for, they still underestimated her business wit when it came to the industry and her ability to adapt to the entertainment environment. And it is evident in how her success and her achievements are breeding jealousy, resentment, and hate campaigns against her. The truth is, Lisa was always going to focus her energy on the Western market, and she was always going to be smarter in her solo careers than the rest of the members of Blackpink, maybe except Jisoo, because unlike them, she's always had more to lose. She's had to play smarter and think 10 steps ahead because the West is her highest shot of success after Blackpink disbands and moves on. For years, she was the member that was hardly a priority in her group, hence why she's had to learn a lot and solely rely on herself for her future success. And when the West gave her the opportunity, she didn't waste it. She's simply doing what anyone in her shoes would do, using all avenues available and utilizing them to further her career. And quite frankly, I do not believe that this is something that she should be punished for.